I have allowed NCOP Zoom, which is from the college, and you may explain yourself on that from that ID. Professor Santosh.
Good morning. Can any of the professors speak, please?
You can switch on your microphone and introduce yourself. Are we audible?
Yes, Rajesh, anyone can unmute and
Yes,
speak.
everybody can. Anyone from your team, Mr. Santosh, can unmute yourself and present yourself.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Hello, good morning, sir.
Good morning. We can hear you. Please go ahead.
So myself, Irfan Khan, Assistant Professor, Nalanda College of Pharmacy, sir.
Okay.
So, so we are very thankful to conducting this webinar sir, to our students.
And Doctor, if you could tell what kind of a students are these,
So
which
here,
year, which
first year
courses?
to first year, second year B Pharmacy, third year B Pharmacy, and final year B Pharmacy students are there, sir, to hear you.
Okay. Okay. All right. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, sir.
Thank you. And Rajesh, I would like to say, please do not allow because more people, because every time people come, people make sound. And if we can now stop, if everyone is in, we can stop the more people from entering into the room now. Because
Yes.
people will constantly come and it disturbs the flow for all the students.
Yes, I also
All right.
asked Mr. Santosh to tell their students not to join on the link.
Yeah. Okay. Good morning, everyone. Good morning to the students of the Nalanda College of Pharmacy. First of all, thank you, Dr. Santosh, and the management of Nalanda College of Pharmacy to provide us the opportunity to make presentation on the life sciences career opportunities for the pharmacy students. So today we are going to talk about the career opportunities after the pharmacy, whether it's a Bachelor of Pharmacy course or the Masters of Pharmacy course. What are the opportunities today? And what we are going to talk is the new areas. We are not going to touch upon the traditional opportunities like working in the pharmaceutical production unit in QC, QA, in a production area as a medical representative or working in the as a drug inspector kind of a entry level role. We are not going to talk about the traditional career options. What we are going to do, what are the new age life sciences career options today? And the program will be very useful for the final year students, but equally useful for the students of first year who have just joined and who should know what are the career options for them. This program is hosted by Cliniminds. Cliniminds is the life sciences skilling organization since the year 2004, and we have trained and placed over 9,500 students over the years and provided the continuous training programs, continuous medical education training programs, professional training programs for the corporate sector as well. Now, we're going to talk some of these new areas today. So one area is the clinical trials. So we will go step by step what this sector is and you can save your question for the end. You can jot down your questions in your notebook, and then at the end we will answer all the questions. Clinical trials is the part of the drug development industry, the pharmaceutical industry. So when we develop a new drug or your new molecule you have to develop, you have to conduct the scientifically, done clinical studies. Now, these clinical trials are very time consuming. Every drug takes about good 7 to 8, 9 years, 10 years sometimes to bring the new drug to the market. It takes over $1 billion. And if you've seen the today's rupee value, about 8,200 crores of rupees it takes to bring one drug to the market, and that's the average. Some drugs takes even much higher cost to bring the drug to the market. So clinical trials has to be done scientifically. uh, so the process starts as early as in the laboratories where you screen the host of molecules for the target disease, and then you screen the molecules into the preclinical studies. You then target certain molecules in the preclinical studies, which is done on animal models, and a lot of you may be already doing the preclinical work in your pharmacy college. So in the preclinical studies, we target the animal, we use the animal models and see the safety and efficacy of the drugs in the animal model. Once we establish the safety and efficacy in the animal models, we move to clinical research, clinical trials. So the studies which we do in the animal models is called preclinical. It is not called the clinical trials, it's called the preclinical. And after establishing the safety and efficacy, we move to clinical trials in human beings. Because now we are conducting the trials on human beings, we need to ensure that clinical trials are conducted as per the ethical processes. We should do it ethically. The second is we do the clinical trials as per the regulations of the country, host country, whether the clinical trial is being done in India or US, Europe, Australia. We need to conduct the clinical trials as per the regulations of the local country. And we follow the ICH GCP principles. So ICH GCP principles are the global basic principles for conduct of the clinical trials worldwide. ICH GCP means International Conference on Harmonization Good Clinical Practice. ICH GCP agreement came into effect in 1996 for the clinical trials when Japan, Europe, US came together to sign this agreement to ensure that there is harmonization of regulations or the guidelines to conduct clinical trials. So if I'm conducting my clinical trials in Europe, my data should be acceptable in US and Japan and now in the other parts of the world and vice versa. So that gave a very strong foundation to clinical trials globally with the signing of this ICGCP principles. Then the clinical trials, when we conduct in human beings in the respective country, let's say in India, we follow our own rules for the clinical trials. So we follow the ICGCP principles as the kind of a guiding principle for conducting clinical trials, but we also uh, follow the Indian regulations. So current Indian regulation is called New Drugs in Clinical Trial Rules 2019. As the rules itself is say, this regulation, new regulation came in 2019. Prior to 2019, there were a lot of changes in the Indian regulations. Our first set of formal regulation for the clinical trials came in the year 2005. So 1st January 2005, we brought the Schedule Y of the Drugs and Cosmetics Act, where we brought out the new set of regulations for the clinical trials in India. But over the period, as the clinical trial industry was growing in India, same were the challenges were also growing. And industry went through a lot of litigation process, regulatory reform process. Indian Parliament passed out the new regulations. There was a Dr. Ranjit Rai Chaudhary committee report, and a lot of you who are from the medical background would know eminent Dr. Ranjit Rai Chaudhary from ICMR, who established the framework for the new regulations. So Supreme Court came into the play. And since 2019, we have a very robust regulation. This regulation defines on how to conduct clinical trials in India. How do we apply to the regulator? How we ensure the safety of the participating population, the patient population which is participating in the clinical trials? What happens if there is a clinical trial injury? If the patient dies who is participating in the study, or there is a injury to them, how do we compensate them? How we take the proper informed consent process today. So we have India has laid down a very strong regulation, and today our regulation is being seen worldwide by a lot of countries, because we have come out with some unique things in India on the patient compensation rules, uh, which are left it to the various agencies worldwide. But in India, we have a very clear-cut set of rules in place that if this happens, what compensation will be paid, if this is the level of the person, earning level, or he was the sole member, or he was a high earner, depending upon your various parameters. Today, we can do the proper calculation of the compensation which can be paid to the clinical trial participate in the case of the injury. Now, clinical trials have got a lot of stakeholders. Stakeholders means people who are actively involved into the clinical trials. You have the pharmaceutical companies, which are called sponsors in the language of clinical trials, who sponsor the study. So I'm a pharmaceutical company. I have a vision to bring the new drug in cancer, and I want to do the proper clinical trials to my molecule, which I've developed during the research phase, but I want to test it now in the preclinical and then eventually in the clinical space. So how do I do that? I fund the clinical trial. I will ensure that I find the suitable sites, investigator sites where the trials will be conducted. I have proper scientific protocol, medical protocol to conduct the clinical trials. The clinical trial is approved by the government regulatory agencies and the various other bodies, ethical committees, and all which are involved into the clinical trial. So, as a sponsor, I have a lot of responsibility to ensure the safety and efficacy of the drug. Then comes the ethics committees, another stakeholder. Ethics committees, their role, as the name suggests, is to ensure ethics in the clinical trials. Ethics means a lot. Ethic means how you should ethically conduct the clinical trial. Are you bribing the patient to participate in the clinical trial? Are you giving them the wrong information to participate in the clinical trial? Are you motivating them, which is not correct way of overpaying them to participate in the clinical trial? So there are several issues related with the ethics, and ethics play in not only a role in our clinical trials, but ethics play a very important role in day-to-day life. The more we are ethical, more will be better. We'll be better human beings, and we'll be better human. Will be better working professionals as well. So we want to ensure that people, the subjects who are participating in the clinical trials, have uh, have clear transparency, and the role of which is with the ethics committee. ethics committee can be set up by various institutions with the several members on the board, 7 members minimum, and these ethics committee have proper set of regulations and guidelines to operate. All these ethics committees are certified and licensed by the Drug Controller General of India, CDSCO, Central Drug Standards Control Organization. So no ethics committees could operate without the approval of the regulatory agency in India. So that's another big thing in India, that we have a proper regulation to set up the ethics committee. Then the other stakeholders are the clinical research professionals, like future professionals like you, us, who are working to ensure that the clinical trials are conducted as per the ethics, as per the guidelines, as per the regulations, as per the protocol. Uh, so we participate. We ensure that the participants who are coming to the clinical trials uh, have the clear information about the trial. They sign properly all the documentation. They are given the informed consent. They sign the informed consent to participate in the clinical trials. If they cannot sign, they should be clearly given the information in the language which they understand, and then they give their verbal consent and using the thumbprint also. So the as a clinical research professional, you have very strong role to play to ensure that trial is conducted as per the ethics, guidelines, protocols, regulations, and you need to ensure the safety of the patient who is participating in the clinical trial. Then you have the other stakeholders like laboratories. A lot of labs are involved, clinical and analytical laboratories are involved. Then a very strong, important stakeholder is the Drug Controller's Office, Drug Controller General of India, which is the part of the Central Drug Standards Control Organization under the Ministry of Health. Drug control, drug controller plays a very important role as a stakeholders. They receive your application, which is filed online today through the Sugam portal. Uh, then regulator looks at your clinical trial application at the merits. They give you or reject the approval, or they want you to submit more information, and they constantly ensure that your trials are in as per the ethics, as per the regulations, as per the guidelines. So regulator plays a very important role in giving you the approval, but also subsequently the marketing authorization approval, marketing authorization for the drug or a vaccine or a device which you want to market on the basis of the clinical trials which you have conducted, or the other data previous from the data from the labs and the preclinical studies, the regulators. So these are the various, stakeholders. And as future clinical research professionals, you will start your career as a clinical research coordinator, grow as a clinical research associate, become project manager, become senior manager, become vice presidents, general managers in the pharma companies or the research companies. There is no shortage of the opportunities in country like India, which is a very favorite now destination for the global pharmaceutical companies. Where will you work? Some of the questions as a clinical research professional, where you will work. So you'll work in the pharmaceutical companies which are conducting clinical trials. You will work with the contract research organizations. Uh, is my screen visible?
No, sir.
Rajesh, can
No,
you?
no, sir. Actually, I think you have logged out from that account.
Okay. Just a second.
Yes, sir, it's visible now.
Right. So there are a lot of opportunities in the hospitals, contract research companies, central laboratories, uh, IT companies, life sciences IT companies, which are involved into the providing the technical support, IT support to the various contract research companies. So you work in the as a clinical research coordinator, as a data management associate. There are various opportunities for you in this sector. The second important sector from your point of view is pharmacovigilance. A lot of you must be hearing this terminology called pharmacovigilance. Now, pharmacovigilance is the science of drug safety. The science of pharmacovigilance ensures that the drug, either during the clinical trial phase, is safe, or once the drug is marketed, drug is now in the market and the patients are taking the drug continues to be safe. During the clinical trials, we do the safety studies of the drug as well, constantly. At every stage of clinical trial, whether the phase one, phase two, phase three, in all three phases, we we ensure the safety of the drug for the patients. If at any stage the drug is not safe, either we go back to the laboratory and ensure that the drug is safe, or the trial is terminated uh, for the lack of safety. So safety is very important even over efficacy. The drug may be efficacious, but if the drug is not safe, it's no good. That's why during the clinical trials, we constantly monitor the safety of the drug, which is also called pharmacovigilance. But in clinical trials, we know our participants. So let's say in the phase one, two, three, total we had about 3,500, 4,000 patients, 5,000 patients, but we exactly know who these 5,000 patients are, who are their doctors, what medication they take, what their lifestyle is, what food they eat, what other drugs they take. We know their complete information because they're participating in the clinical trial. But when the drug goes out into the market in the millions of patients in 100, 120 countries, 130 countries, you will find very difficult to then find out the safety issues. And the drug which you tried in 5,000 patients, which appeared to be safe in 5,000 patients, actually giving some results which are showing the new adverse events, serious adverse events as a result of the same drug. So, how do you find this information when the drug goes out into the market in 110 countries? And that's where the post marketing pharmacovigilance processes come into place. We develop a mechanism to obtain the information from the market, from the doctors, because the doctors are the one who are prescribing the drug to the patient. And if they come across any adverse event, serious adverse event related with the drug, they must report it to the pharmaceutical company or to the regulator. In India, the regulator for the pharmacovigilance, the authority is the PVPI, Pharmacovigilance Authority in India. So PVPI is the authority which receives all the information and processes all the information which is received by the from the hospitals or the doctors. Or doctors can directly report this to the pharmaceutical companies, and then pharmaceutical companies will analyze this data, write various kind of reports, analyze scientifically, use certain softwares, and report it to the regulatory agencies that this is what happened. Now, this is mandatory. This is not optional for the companies to report the safety information to the regulatory agencies. So we have a very stringent regulation in India, and India is also part of the global regulations. So everything which happens today, we have to report it to the uh, regulatory agencies, which in turn report it to the WHO Uppsala Monitoring Center. Now, you can imagine thousands of drugs, hundreds of companies, big companies worldwide, and how much safety information comes out. So through the doctors, through patients can directly report to the regulatory agencies. Patient can report it to the doctor. Doctor reports it to the pharma companies. Patient can report it to the pharma companies' helplines. If you have seen the prescription information sheets which are there in the certain medicines, along with the medicines you get, the companies give their helpline numbers, toll-free numbers, email IDs to report any safety information. So patients can directly do that. The other areas to get this information are the publications, scientific journals, where the information is published about the drug. So you need to ensure that you screen all journals worldwide. So it's not that you're just screening some local journals. You have to screen a lot of journals internationally and report any safety issues which come about your drug. So there are a lot of different kinds of reports are prepared for the regulatory agencies, things like aggregate report writing, the PSUR, PABRs in Europe, PADRs in US, DSURs for the clinical trial aggregation reports, signal detection, risk management strategies, medical review of the adverse events. A lot of documents are specialized documents you need to prepare as a part of this business. There are specialized safety data exchange agreements and all are prepared. So a lot of it's a very complex subject, and once you complete your graduation, you undergo such program, you'll be ready to work in the pharmaceutical industry in this very interesting area. The third area, which is very interesting today for the pharmacy graduates, is the clinical data management as well. Now, clinical data management deals with the clinical trials data. Now, in clinical trials, we generate millions of bytes of data, thousands of papers, lakhs of papers, case report forms, the source data for the clinical trials are generated. How do we collect this data? How do we integrate this data into the software system? How we ensure that this data is now in a proper structure which cannot be manipulated? Then use this information to do the statistical analysis. So that's where the role of data management and SAS comes in. People who are involved into this career, they involved into the clinical data management side. People who want to do in SAS, so there's a lot of people who go into SAS. SAS is the statistical analysis software, statistical analysis solutions. Now, in this, whatever the clinical trials we have done, whatever the data management structured data we have in place, we will now do the analysis of data statistically and prepare the clinical trial report for the regulatory agencies. SAS is an exciting career, but you should have the ability to do a bit of maths. You should have either a very strong interest in coding and programming, or you should understand coding programming already before you join this SAS programming career, which is the statistical programming career. So that's the data management and SAS. So these four are your primary opportunities for you. If you're an firm or you have some work experience, there is another very strong area these days where the opportunities are growing are the pharmaceutical business analytics. This is where you do the advanced level analytics for the pharmaceutical companies. The example is every pharmaceutical company needs to make important scientific and business decisions. So let's take an example. As a pharma company, I want to launch a new cancer molecule, a new cancer drug. How do I decide this? How do I make this decision whether this is the right drug, whether this will meet the existing gaps in the market in the cancer treatment? Which cancer should I target? Head and neck cancer, lung cancer, breast cancer? Which cancer I should target? Which are my current competitors? Which are the existing drugs which are treating cancer? Which are the new drugs which are under research? When will they be launched? What will be their price? What will be the regulatory environment now and future? So, a lot of scientific and business questions to be answered. If I launch this drug 6 years down the line after the research, or 7 years, what will be my market share? What will be the market share of my competitors? I do a lot of this in analysis of scientific and business information. And that's where the role of a business analyst comes. Fairly good sector. A lot of you who are doing very well in the academic side could consider the pharmaceutical business analytics career as well. The entry level job roles in pharmacovigilance are drug safety associate. So you start your career in the pharmaceutical companies or the CROs or the pharmacovigilance companies uh, as a drug safety associate, as a pharmacovigilance associate, and your job will be that you receive all the safety information, you triage that information, you prioritize which needs to be reported first to the regulatory agencies. You do then the case processing, that how to information which you have received in the adverse event form, ADR form, how to now process this as per the pharmacovigilance regulations in the case processing format, how to use software, how to write narrative, how to do the MEDRA coding. This is what you're going to do, and this is what you learn as a part of the Clinomines programs. In data management, also data management associate level job role at an entry level, validation associate level. At the entry level, you get into in pharmaceutical business analytics, you become the business analyst role, entry level role as a junior business analyst. In the SAS, the statistical analysis, programming, stats programming, you join as a junior statistical programmer. So these are the various, entry level job roles. These are some of the things which you are going to learn as a part of the programs. If you conduct with your college or anyone wants to join eventually these programs, you learn the clinical trials, ethics, roles, responsibilities, essential documents, regulations, how to conduct and manage clinical trials, data management, statistical analysis. Same way in the pharmacovigilance, you learn about various things, ICSRs, case processing, using the softwares, various aggregate reports, types of various aggregate reports like PSUR, PADR, PEBRR, DSUR, how to do the signal detection risk management strategy, drug safety physician role, several documents which are prepared as the SOPs, quality assurance documents, safety data exchange agreements, pharmacovigilance system master file. So you learn a lot of things in the pharma business analytics. You learn things like oncology, competitive intelligence, market research, forecasting models, health economics outcomes research. Health economics outcomes research is the new area which is emerging, where we see the economics of the treatment, economics of the therapy, how the new therapies are, whether they are expensive or they should be priced lower, how much insurance companies pays, how government pays, how insurance companies reimburse, comparison with the existing therapies, the cost benefit of this therapy. So you learn all this in the health economics outcomes research or the pharmacoeconomics. Forecasting is a very important area. In forecasting, you are asked to do the forecast, as the word itself suggests. Forecast means company wants to see at the stage of the research only. Today I'm investing in research, I'm conducting clinical trials, my drug is still 5 years away from the market. What will be, if I launch my drug after 5 years, what will be my sales? Like the Jyotshi tells you that you have a great career ahead. The monsoon, the meteorological department tells you there will be rain this afternoon, or it doesn't come sometimes, although. But you, as a forecasting professional, needs to develop very scientific model that you should be able to forecast the sales of your drug 5, 6, 7 years down the line in comparison to your other industry, competitors. So a lot of areas, interesting areas for the professionals like you. The industry continues to grow worldwide, and India, COVID has been banned for the society, banned for health, very bad for the socioeconomic reasons. A lot of losses in everyone's families and the friends, everywhere you talk. But it created awareness about the role clinical trials can play, and India proved to the world that we are really not only the pharmacy of the world, we can develop the best vaccines. And India, with the help of a very strong, trained workforce, we were able to bring out the vaccine in the lowest amount of time. In the shortest amount of time, we brought the vaccine to the market. So in the continues, and this created more confidence for the global drug companies to conduct the more clinical trials in India. Today, India employs more than 50,000 professionals. There are over 150 companies which are already actively working in the different areas of the clinical trials. Pharmacovigilance is growing fast. Today, in India, the current market size is close to about $1 billion, and the market by 2030 will be about $2 billion. And these are just India numbers. And worldwide, the market is growing at a rapid pace, and India has got the major chunk of these opportunities due to our profession, due to the trained scientific workforce which we have in this country. People who are trained in English. English is very important language for our industry. In the life sciences sector, if you want to build a career, English is going to play a very important role. So refining English, preparing yourself for the future roles in this sector means that you should have a good English control. And tomorrow, if you plan to go to the overseas markets, the English is rather more important. So a lot of opportunities in this sector. Growth is enormous. I'm going to talk about the journal skills today. I've talked about the skills in my previous slides, that what kind of various skills in the scientific subjects you should have. But apart from the science and the technology and the medical side, you must have a lot of skills which are important for employability. Many a times, you are very good in science, you're very good in pharmacy, you know technology well. But when it comes to interview, you do not clear interview, because the recruiters are looking at people who have ability to interact. So core skills, what we just spoke in the previous slides, you need to have various clinical research skills, pharmacovigilance skills, softwares, but English communication, as I was saying in my previous say, the English communication is a very important. It's all forms. You should be able to listen well. Listening skills are very, very important, because sometimes in the hurry of speaking, we do not listen others. and then we answer wrong, and in the interview we are rejected. So one of the most important skill sets you need to develop in any language, in fact, uh, uh, is listening ability. Once you listen well, interpret well, you'll be able to answer better. Then spoken and written English. Spoken English is extremely important, at least for our sector. We can talk about the life sciences, clinical research, pharmacovigilance sector. They're very important that you should be able to speak English well, write English well, because worldwide, this work is done in English. A lot of work worldwide happens in English. And this is where, if you see in the Europe or even in US or many countries, a lot of clinical trial work actually happens in English. So it's important to understand English. And India, being a country where the education system traditionally has been English, our corporate culture, when you go to the pharma healthcare companies, all documents, all communication take place in English. So ensure that you work on this skill set, extremely important. Presentation skills and group discussions. You should be able to present well in interview, on slides, without slides. Uh, you should be able to present your viewpoint. Uh, you should have the right knowledge set. You should not confuse at the time of making presentations. Group discussions, very important. It's great when we talk alone, when I'm asked to speak alone, but now I am in a panel discussion. You have been asked, as a lot of you may have participated in group discussions as a part of your entrance exam, or going forward, perhaps in MBAs and all, you may be asked to do the group discussion. Or in a company, you tomorrow join a company and there are 10 people sitting in a meeting and everyone needs to speak. So, what is the mannerism in which you should speak? You should wait for your turn, you should speak at your turn, do not interrupt others, listen well. So there are a lot of things you need to follow in group discussions, and this is a very important corporate skill. Next is keyboard skills, extremely important. Computer skills. We have become so habitual of using mobile phones, smartphones, that we have forgotten to properly use computers. It's important that the time which you are spending on phone, you must cut down and start working on computers. 100% jobs today are on computers. There are no pen and paper jobs anymore anywhere in the world. Whether you're joining a corporate sector or a government sector, please invest time, acquire computer. You can buy a cheaper phone, but invest in a good computer, have a good laptop or a computer, and start working today itself. Word, typing in Word, PowerPoint, these three skill sets alone can get you a job today in the industry, because 95% students or 90% students, when they go for interviews and they are asked to do the keyboard skills, people just don't are not able to perform. So extremely important sort of a skill set. And if you have not invested in a computer, if you're not working on a computer much, please start doing. And you will see that actually your learning ability will be far better than mobile phone. Soft skills, general soft skills. How do you speak? How do you present yourself? How do you manage time? In interview, whether you reach on time or not, your 10:30 interview and you reach at 10:20, it's wrong, because by the time you come to the reception, security gate, do your entry, they make your pass, they send you to the HR department, it will take you 20 to 25, 30 minutes, and you might lose your interview. So ensure time management. This life sciences business where you are going to build career is all about time management. Every 1 day delay in bringing out the drug to the market. So if we are researching a new drug, let's say we want to bring this drug on 1 January 2024, and this becomes 2nd January 2024. We have already lost 8 crore rupees in one day. So every 1 day delay, it increases your losses by $1 million. So imagine what it can do if you're not having a good time management. Teamwork. The world is different now. We are not operating in isolation, or I'm working alone, maybe on computer at that time, but I'm a part of a global group in the life sciences company or a pharma or research company. I'm performing on a clinical trials where 500,000 other people are involved. My wrong decision could lead to the disaster. So I need to learn. I am not a lone operator. I need to learn to work in teams. Extremely important skill set. And last but not least, the flexibility and mobility. How do you how flexible you are? You are in some other city, somewhere in interiors in Andhra, Telangana, and you say, I want my job in my city. No, you need to be mobile. Today, the opportunities for the life sciences sector are in all major cities: Hyderabad, Bangalore, Chennai, Mysore, Delhi, Bombay, Pune, Ahmedabad, Vadodara, all the major cities, basically, Trivandrum, Cochin, all major cities have got the opportunities. So you should be able to go and work in major cities to acquire experience, because unfortunately a lot of these sectors are still focused on 12 to 14, 12 to 13 cities in India, largely for the logistics, client visiting, workforce availability. So these are the some factors due to which the companies invest in these major cities. So if you want to work in this industry, be mobile, should be flexible to do the course. Clinomines, very briefly, another few minutes on Clinomines. We established in the year 2004, and today we have alumni of close to about 9,500, not only students in India, but in several countries worldwide. We run our training programs in the countries like US, Europe, Middle East, and Africa. Several awards have been awarded to the Clinomines. The most recent was the Business World Award. Our programs are all certified and accredited by the Government of India. All skill programs which we have are certified by the Life Sciences Sector Skill Development Council under the Ministry of Skill Development. So every certification is valid under the e-learning programs. These are some of the recruiters we have. These are the companies where the Clinomine students are already working. So these are the sample, not all the companies. We have placements in close to about 150 companies, students who do our programs. So you learn programs through e-learning modules. We have the live sessions, working days, Monday to Friday, or weekends, or we customize the programs for the colleges also for the final year students, where you will learn the right skill sets in the clinical research and pharmacovigilance, softwares, content. We provide you all study material. You're prepared for interviews, mock interviews are done, and then we arrange your interviews with the companies. So we have extensive placement structured program in place. These are some of our technology partners where we do these technical trainings for the students, and we have built in the internship programs for our students. So all these technology partners we have. Strong team, we have all the best professionals. Over 50 full-time and part-time trainers are working with Clinomines today and training on over 40 subjects in different areas. So that's about us. And now I'm happy to take questions from you. This is some of the information. You can take a screenshot of my team, you can connect. And uh, if your management is industry interested in the Nalanda College, we can set up a program for the final year student where we train you on clinical trials, pharmacovigilance, data management, on business analytics, prepare you for interviews, and then arrange the interviews for the placements with the companies. With this, I bring my talk to an end, and I will now take questions from all of you. You can type questions on the window, or you can speak if you have mic, or you can give the question to your professor who can ask these questions. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for the detailed presentation. And Mr. Santosh, we would like to take questions. Please type your questions, or you can ask directly from the sir.
Sir, we have posted questions in the chat box. Please
Okay, we'll just check.
your question.
We'll check. Yeah, yeah. Rajesh, can you check questions and read for me?
Yes, sir. So Shalu Salani has entered the questions. I am Salani from B Pharmacy final year. What are the roles and responsibility of SAS?
SAS. So Shalini, SAS is the last mile, in a sense, you can say, of the entire clinical trial process. In clinical trials, we generate data on the patients. So let's say patients are participating in the diabetes clinical trials. We collect the data, we do the complete study. Now this study is then entered into the clinical data management system, where we, in a structured way, enter the entire clinical data, validate that. Now, this data needs to be statistically analyzed. We cannot give just the volumes of data to the regulatory agencies. We will statistically analyze everything, prepare the clinical trial report, and this statistical analysis is the role of the SAS professionals. So you work as a statistical programmer. So all the data which you are getting from the clinical data software, you will write code and statistically analyze that data in the format which is then accepted by the regulatory agency. The work involved is programming, statistical programming, and this is not non-programming job. So unless anyone has interest in the programming and the coding and bit of understanding of maths, this career is useful for those people who have understanding of maths and some coding programming experience or deep interest into that space.
Thank you, sir. Pawan has similar questions from SAS. I hope Pawan has received his answer. Salu again has asked, there is one question from Neha. She's a final year of B Pharmacy. She is asking, how do we get into clinical data management jobs?
Clinical data. Right. So for learning the clinical data management, it is important to learn the entire clinical trials. So how the clinical trials are conducted, regulations, and then learn the data management aspects. So you need to learn data management techniques, how we are collecting data, integrating data, analyzing data. We uses various softwares, pre-study data management activity, during activity data management activities, post-study data management activities. So all this is taught in a very structured manner at Cliniminds, where we train you to become a data management professional and a clinical research professional, and then we find the right jobs for you in these companies, in the life sciences IT companies.
Thank you, sir. There's a question from Siva. He's from B Pharmacy final year. Asking, among clinical data management, pharmacovigilance, and SAS, which has the best career opportunity?
In terms of the career opportunities wise, all are similar. However, in SAS, the opportunities are slightly better in terms of the career growth. Pharmacovigilance clinical research are great for the pharmacy students. Unless you come with the sound maths and interest and some knowledge of coding programming, do not venture out in SAS. Everyone finds SAS very attractive, but is it meant for everyone? No. So, as a pharmacy student, your first career should be focused should be on clinical research and pharmacovigilance. Both are same growth, great, good career opportunities. You can build a long-term great career in both. SAS, venture out, good opportunities. Venture out only if you have some understanding maths, you understand coding programming, and you have a sound interest in programming and coding side. Only then come to SAS.
Thank you, sir. I think there are no questions coming in the chat box. So, Professor Santosh, can you assign someone to ask question on behalf of the students? You can unmute yourself and ask question.
Rajesh sir, we have a question from Dit. She's in B Farm third year. She's asking, is clinical
Yeah.
SAS
It's difficult to learn.
difficult to
Yes, sir.
learn?
Yeah.
So nothing is difficult to learn as long as you have sound interest in programming. It is tough, but if you have understanding of very sound interest in coding, programming, mathematics, it's not learned. There are a lot of people from a B Farm side who have come into this space. So you can, but choose program carefully. That's very important. That program should be related with clinical SAS and not just SAS programming. SAS programming means nothing unless it is linked with the clinical research SAS. It should not be a normal base. So SAS is used in financial services. SAS is used in uh, telecom sector, retail sector, agriculture sector, everywhere you use the statistical analysis. But unless you have learned the program, it gives you very sound understanding of the data. Uh, don't go for such program, but ensure that it's all difficulty is not there. Difficulty is all state of mind. If we have interest and basic understanding of maths and interest in programming, coding, this is easy to learn.
Yeah. Next question, please. I think Pavan, you are typing in questions on behalf of students. So please keep on typing the questions so that we can take questions. You may also unmute yourself here and ask questions.
There's a lot of echo. Um,
Good
can
afternoon,
write
sir. Myself, K. Navyasri from final year. Sir,
right.
what is the time period for learning this course and who are eligible for learning this course, sir?
So final year students can do these courses. These programs are on weekend 6 months, full time 3 months. If you intend to do full time, do it immediately after your final year. If you want to do weekend, then we have the Saturday, Sunday weekend classes option. We also, for the pharmacy colleges, do the customization. If you are students together, 20, 25, 30 students, uh, we can run a customized program also for your college students together and prepare you almost at the time so that you're ready for the you're ready at the time when your result comes, you are ready for the placement.
Next question, please.
Thank you, sir.
Very good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Rafia from B Form third year.
Yeah, okay.
My question is, what kind of patients are needed for the clinical trials and what are the risks involved?
Okay. So good question. Uh,
Thank you.
Now, for the patient is depending upon the trial you're doing. So let's say if you're doing the trial on cancer patients which have lung cancer. So you will target the lung cancer patients, for which you need to target the hospitals which are having the patients of cancer, which are treating cancer. So you'll target the hospitals which are treating the lung cancer or cancer, and you need to target the patients with the lung cancer indication. However, every patient is not taken into the clinical trial. We prepare the exclusion and inclusion criteria that which patient can come into the trial, which cannot. We also we seek the consent of the patient or their family. We take the consent whether they want to participate in the clinical trial or not. We cannot enroll patient into any study without their consent. So to answer your question, yes, the patient will depend upon the disease for which you are doing the clinical trial. So that was the first part of the question. What is the second question?
What are the risks involved?
Well, the risk is that if you're doing a phase 1 study, which has not been done on humans before. So phase 1 is the first in human. So which means you are getting the drug. There are risks involved when you have the uh, first time you're giving the drug to the patient. There are risks involved, and that's why the patients are informed in advance about the possible risk, whether it can damage their liver or anything. But a lot of data we already have from the laboratory studies and the preclinical data as well. So we have some level of information available. So we for every study the risks are different. So when we take, yes, there are risks, but the risks in terms of the disease, what it can do to your drug can do to your body are different from drug to drug. Let's say the drugs which are there to treat cancer or HIV or HCV, they are more toxic. So you're likely to get more, issues with the liver or other issues. So drug can be toxic. There are some drugs which are not toxic. So the risks are less. So you have to outline the possible risks in the informed consent to the patient.
Thank you, sir, for your valuable information.
You're welcome.
Sir, questions are completed.
Okay.
So no more questions?
Sir,
So
questions
Rajesh,
are completed, sir.
yeah. So Rajesh, you can wrap up and then get, yeah.
Okay, fine. Fine. Thank you, sir, for your presentation and answers to the students. Thank you, students, for joining this webinar. We will be contacting you through Professor Santosh and your faculty members. And if you have any query regarding the program or the career or the courses, we are happy to answer that. Please contact your professor so that you may be, I will also share the details on your numbers you have shared on the registration link. And we will be happy to answer your queries. Thank you so much for being into the webinar. Thank you, sir, for presenting the sessions.
So thank you, sir, for giving us time and explaining us. From this webinar, we have learned different areas of clinical research, pharmacovigilance, clinical data management, and clinical SAS. And also, we gained so much of knowledge regarding these sectors. And once again, thank you, sir, regarding how to choose our career opportunities. Thank you, sir.
Sir, sir, your microphone is mute, sir.
Thank you, first of all, to the college management, Professor Santosh, and all the students for the opportunities to present. And I wish you all the best for your final year exams and the exams for the other batches as well. Good luck. Bye bye.